Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Dennis Giannoutzis. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutzis.
The next question, you sort of answered just before as well, which is the show is Leadership is Changing. That's the title. But what else does that mean for you?
If I tie what you just said about Eleanor Roosevelt and pushing for what she believes in, I do think that the situation that we find ourselves in with COVID-19, with the equity issues that we see in the world today, I think leaders truly have to stand up and put their money where their mouth is. They have to stand for equity and inclusion. They have to stand for belonging. They have to stand for the power and strength of their teams. And they have to be willing to recognize that not everybody's going to disagree or agree with them. I look at Satya Nadella from Microsoft, and his focus on diversity, inclusion, and belonging is just exemplary in the market. There are customers of Microsoft who clearly don't agree with that stance. He doesn't care, right?
Yep.
That's the company he's running, and that's the work that they're doing, and that's what he's here for.
At least he's got a stance. At least he knows what he's standing for and what he wants the company to stand for.
Yeah, absolutely. If you look about AI and the work that's happening around artificial intelligence, Microsoft was one of the first companies to stand up and say, we need diversity in our software developers. Otherwise, we end up with facial recognition technology that doesn't recognize every face in the world.
Sure.
Recognizes only a certain spectrum of faces.
And what happens with those leaders who don't want to go down that way? What happens to those leaders who think, no, I'm quite happy just doing what I'm doing?
I think as the industry changes, as we get more generations in the workforce, Gen Z and millennials are going to force CEOs and leaders to take a stand. I'm not a huge fan of generational research, but in general, if we're going to talk in generalities, in general, there's a higher level of interest and desire in making the world a better place.
The show is called Leadership is Changing, and as you mentioned before, so when I say that name, that title, what does that mean for you?
Leadership is changing. It's changing like everything else. And I think it's really, I have a picture in my mind of the traditional leader. And we tend to think of that person who gets up on stage, probably in technology, it's probably the Larry Ellisons from Oracle or the Steve Jobs of Apple. And they give an awesome inspirational speech in an auditorium. And then everyone goes out and they're blown away and they want to do great things. I think leadership has become more about connecting with people more dynamically. Things are changing too quickly to keep having those auditorium-style leadership speeches. It needs to happen in real time. And I think what we're seeing is, yes, we still need to inspire and provide vision, and all of those things haven't really changed. But how we actually lead in the moment, I think, is becoming much more important. I think people are looking for connection, and how do they role model their own behavior in a really fast-paced world? How do we make decisions, and therefore how should they make decisions? How do we deal with ambiguity and change? How do we challenge boundaries? And do we listen to them as individuals? So I think that real need to connect and inspire at a grassroots level, I think, is where we're really seeing that change happening.
Wow, connect and inspire at the grassroots level. Excellent. And the bit that you talked about, the dynamic side around connecting dynamically, do you think technology is going to actually help a lot of leaders and enable them to do that? And if so, how?
Yeah, the tools are hard to keep up with in terms of the tools that you can, whether you're on Slack or WhatsApp or Zoom, or the tools are just coming thick and fast. And I think COVID certainly brought out a whole new way of working and connecting. And I think technology helps, but I think fundamentally, you still have to make the effort to connect. Are you consciously connecting? Are you having the right conversations? All of that hasn't changed, right? Technology is just an enabler to do it in a different way. I still think we need to role model behavior and connect in a way that others can see. And whether they see that through technology platform or in person, I think that the fundamentals are still the same.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I don't know. Yeah, you're right. So many tools out there, and it's quite overwhelming to see. And I just say to people, it doesn't matter which one you choose. In fact, just choose one,
That's
will you?
right.
And then get on with it. That's number one. But number two is, if you do, going back to what you just said, make sure you do connect. The fundamentals are still there. You still need to be the leader. You just can't hide behind the tool. In fact, I think the tool allows you to have a bigger global footprint or a global reach a lot easier and quicker, and which is great, but it's still, and I think it actually probably emphasizes leadership more. So, Alan, the show is called Leadership is Changing. When I say that title or that statement, what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think you're right. It is changing, although it's changing and it's not, I think, in some ways. You hear a lot about the speed of technology and how that's influencing our lives now. Sustainability, obviously, health and safety, especially mental health, are all putting demands on leaders now. Those things are moving much faster. However, I really think the essence of being a leader hasn't changed that much. Connecting with people, caring about them, and I think really caring about people. And there's one thing to say it, there's another thing to actually go and talk to people and ask them face to face what matters in your life right now. Really care about them, making the tough calls. We've been able to weed through, this has come through quite a bit for me over my career, being able to weed through the issues and make things simple. If you can get your strategy, I'm a big fan of getting your strategy on one page. And I talk to, in the sustainability world, people about businesses about creating a framework and a sustainability framework. If you can't tell your story or your strategy or your program in one page, I think you've got to go back and reflect. Connecting with people, really caring, making tough calls, simplifying things. I think that's what really counts, and it will enable you to cope with change really effectively.
Yeah, that's good. And as you're saying, sharing that with people is really good, because I think if we can do that really well, to storytelling and being able to help people understand where they're going, communicating really well, that's where you can engage with them. That's when they can act on things and get action happening. And that's when they can commit to the story, to things as we do that. And I know that it's what you do in your business side of things as well, that you take clients through that to make sure they do that for sure, which is really interesting to see. And as you said, there is a lot of stuff changing, but some of it isn't. So there's a lot, probably another way of maybe saying it is there's a lot more focus in different areas. Sustainability is one, and we're talking about the environmental side, but it's also probably sustainability of an organization too. Would that be true?
Yeah. People, when you first talk to companies about sustainability, people naturally think about the environmental side of it. But if COVID's taught us nothing this year, it's that social sustainability is super critical, right? We do have to take care of the planet. That hasn't gone away, and many companies haven't started on that journey. But the social side of things is really top of mind, which the trauma and that people have been through, just the anxiety and the demands on mental health. I think it's pretty critical. But I'm also ultimately a commercial guy at heart, and if you don't secure the economic sustainability of the business, then you can't create that ability to do those other things effectively. And actually, I was at the Sustainable Business Awards last week, and we talked a bit about this sort of thing amongst the group. And if you don't secure your economic future, you don't really create a platform to do those other things, take care of people. So it's about balance these days. It's about getting all three aspects of sustainability balanced, and it hasn't always been like that.
Yeah, cool. So secure the economic future to help give you a platform to go out there and influence and do what you need to go and do, possibly. So that's good.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Hey, the name of the show is Leadership is Changing. When I say that name, what does that mean for you?
Okay, I'm known about playing with words. So leadership is actually the act of leading, okay, of showing the way. But who really acts? Who leads? It's a human being again. I always go around that. It's a human being. So for me, it's about leaders who are human beings who are changing. And that's leadership changing. And it's all about inner change from the inside out. Or I would say even further, inspired change. Because you see, Dennis, what I love about it is that we are SIP. We are spiritual beings gifted with an intellect, living in a physical body. And because we're gifted with this intellect, we have the ability to respond rather than react as all other breathing beings. So leadership change is about leaders becoming aware of their ability not only to adapt to change, but to respond to change too. It's about leaders transforming into new becomings and then into their new doings, which is their results. I don't know if this sounds quite radical to you, but for me, it's about creating their own new normal rather than living and being challenged of the new normal.
Wow, this is some fantastic stuff that Joanna's sharing with us, listeners. The internal inner change, which is really great. And the thing here is the SIP, the spiritual, the intellect, the physical body. But then you're talking about adapt, respond, transforming, doing, and creating their own new normal. Yeah, that's wonderful. So creating your own new normal. Because the word normal today is, well, what is the new normal? What does it mean? Because we have, and every country is different, but every country is the same, whereby we've got human beings in there and we've had to go into lockdowns to protect ourselves and so forth. So when you say new normal, what do you mean by new normal?
Okay, what I'm saying is about creating what serves you, your vision, your purpose, something that you can control, because what's happening now is that we have been attacked by forced external change, which is something that we cannot control. It is out of us. And it's happening nearly for a year now. The only thing we can do is to turn inside and see what we can control. And because we are creative human beings, and under certain circumstances and with certain methods, we can unleash this creativity, because now this is blocked because of the shock, we can actually create what our vision is, which is our new reality, our new normal.
Okay. So we can create the vision. Yep. Can I say that last piece again? Create the vision.
Create the new vision, which will be our new reality, which will be our new normal.
Yep. And create a vision, which will be our new normal, which will be our new reality. Yep. Be our new reality, which will be our new normal. Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Good. Yeah, this is great. Listeners, I hope you're taking lots of notes on this. So Joanna is sharing that with us. Fantastic. Excellent. So that's what leadership is changing.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Dennis Giannoutsas. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.